There was so much more to Asahi's words than what she was actually saying. I could see it in the way she lowered her gaze, the sad frown that hung above her lips, but I didn't push Asahi for more details, not after everything we'd both been through yesterday, so instead, I frowned in consideration and looked sad as well. So, what do you think I should do? Should I do, that I should tell them the truth about where you came from? If they ask about where you come from, yes. Don will be able to prove that you're telling the truth, and lying about your origins will only make things worse. Well, if you think so, then I guess. But to be honest, I'm not sure how they'll take something like that. I mean, a boy from another world? That's not the sort of thing most people would believe. I believed it. Then again, some people think that I believe too easy. I didn't know what to make of that. All I knew was that there was a greater sadness in Asahi's words now. She always has greater sadness. I found myself wanting to comfort her, but I just didn't know how. Just what you do. You just go around her, you just slip your arms between her arms, and then hold her tight and just love. So I did the only thing I could think of. So I just answered their questions, and then I'll do what I can to assure Liliana that you are to be treated as a friend. And Dawn, she's a flirt and a tease, and she's almost never serious, but she is an honest friend, and an ally who puts her life on the line more than once in this war. She'll back you up, as long as you're honest. Why is it saying that? Hold on, that's probably Aussie. I wasn't totally reassured. But given that I was in an alien world, I knew that my only real option was to trust Asahi and the others if I was going to have a chance, especially with these underworlders and their forces running around. Well, if you say so, though, I'm not sure about Dawn. I mean, no offense, but I know, her sense of humor can be difficult, and she loves having people's hands on her a little too much. But as I said, she can be trusted when you need someone to trust. Well, if you're sure. Still, why did she, the thing and the groping and the even and why? Put our hands on her? It's how she works. She's able to shape and convey some through her lips, but the only bulk of the energy comes from her breasts. Alright. Seriously? No, don't even ask. Just accept it. Well, that is their purpose, to feed others our own energies. What? I took several seconds to process this, and after my brain just barely avoided crashing from the imagery this inspired, I was forced to admit that she did have a point there. Well, okay, but back where I come from, all I'd expect, something like that to get me is being punched in the face. I think most people would do that here in this world as well. Don's the only one I know who actively encourages that sort of thing. A few seconds passed into an awkward silence as the two of us looked at each other, with Asahi's eyes slowly falling off to the table in a solemn manner. Taki, last night, what you saw the Underworlders do, they have done it to every village they've conquered, and with every victory, their forces get larger and stronger, while we get weaker. The inside of my stomach twisted with the way Asahi spoke. I looked intently, even as she met my own gaze. They've already conquered virtually every village we know of, so it's only a matter of time before they come here. And with the forces they already have, I don't see how we can hold them off. We never needed to fight before. Our weapons, they're for hunting alone, and Asahi, we're losing this war, Taki. And while we're not giving up, I honestly don't know how much longer we can fight. I guess what I'm saying is, I hope your father finds you and brings you back to your world soon. For your sake, if nothing else. On one level, I couldn't help but be touched by her words, but at the same time, I couldn't help but feel like a total heel. Here she was, fighting for the future of her world, while I had the possibility of getting out of here. One that would leave everyone in her world in the lurch, fighting a war that I could see felt was already lost. If that happens and you're able to escape to your world, Please remember me and this village the way we are now. Because if we do lose and we do fall into darkness, I want someone to remember us as we are now, as people with our own lives, not slaves to depravity and cruelty. Aussie, I can't believe that. Isn't there any way you can win? I mean, you said last night that it was possible to change the Darklings back. That's right, but only someone like Dawn can do so, and even then, she can only cure a Darkling one at a time, so there we are. And please, just promise that if you do manage to escape back to your world, that you will always remember me as I am. Not the thing I'll become if the Underworlders have their way. As these words sounded, the knots in my stomach became that much tighter, prompting me to come to my feet and round the table to where Aussie sat seated. And she sat there, looking solemn at me. I knelt down to look at her squarely in the eyes. As she looked back, I placed my hands on her shoulders, trying to convey as much comfort as I could. I promise I'll remember, but I'd rather try and stop that from happening in the first place. I don't care how many of these Underworlders or Darklings or whatever there are. There has to be a way to stop them. Several seconds passed before Aussie replied with a sad smile of her own. I want to believe that you're right, but if that's true, then I can't see what that way is. Then let's spend some time trying to come up with some way we can beat them. Besides, like you said, I'm involved with this now. And if my dad doesn't show up to take me back home, then my only option is to fight. And for us to win. Aussie just looked at me for some time. She just sat there, looking at me in complete silence, and it got to the point where I found myself wondering if I had somehow said the wrong thing. Before long, a tiny trickle of wetness appeared in her eyes before she reached forth and wrapped her arms around me, pulling me into a hug. Thank you. To be honest, I had no idea what Aussie was thanking me for. I hadn't really done anything. I haven't done shit. But at that moment, I sensed that all she really wanted was some comfort. And so I just returned her embrace in a gentle manner as I could, and let her hold on to me for a while. Oh, the sad and the emotions. A short while later, I was helping Aussie clean up after breakfast when a familiar presence made herself known. So there you two are. Gosh, I kinda expected you both to be sharing a bath right now. After Aussie and I were done jumping out of our skins, we turned twin looks of annoyance to Dawn, who was grinning shamelessly in return. And you cleaned up? That was so nice. Not that you had to, of course. I honestly wouldn't have minded doing the cleaning myself if you had more urgent needs to attend to. First thing I asked myself was if the only thing Dawn ever thought about was hot nookie. Who says that? The second thing I thought was that, as a bunny girl, if that wasn't somehow appropriate. But before I could get around to thinking about a third thing, Aussie groaned in annoyance. Dawn, don't do that. How did things go with Liliana? She's a bit concerned. She's not about to eject Taki from the village without good reason, but she does want to make sure that he isn't about to stick a knife in any of our backs. The fact is, she's right outside my front door, with Zahn and a whole bunch of guards. Oh, I couldn't help but cringe at this thought, something Aussie noticed. But even as the archer placed a comforting hand upon my shoulder, Dawn waved aside my concerns. Relax, you two, she just wants to talk. Talk, quote, quote. And as soon as she's satisfied that you're not one of the bad guys, you'll be able to go wherever you want in the village without having to put up with Zahn and his crew nagging you. Alright, sounds good. Then we might as well do this and get it over with. Good idea, so let's just do it. Without another word, Dawn turned on her heel and started forward, with Aussie and I following a polite distance behind. Boop. All the while, I tried to ignore the fact that the bunny girl's buttocks was basically screaming at me to stare at them the entire time. Oh dear. As soon as we reached the front door, Dawn opened it up to reveal a woman standing a short distance away, as well as Zahn and several guards. How am I going to do her voice? As I looked at her figure, I found myself quite surprised, for while she had every bit of an hourglass figure that Aussie had, if not Dawn, she showed no cleavage, no leg. Her clothing, though definitely different from that of Earth, was reserved and businesslike. and for a moment I found myself worrying that perhaps I was getting a little bit too used to being surrounded by scantily clad lovelies. I should just do British. British? Pfft, I suck at British, but here we go. Hello, I'm Liliana, the head of the Kahe village. As Liliana spoke, I found myself a bit reassured. Her voice was definitely cautious, but overall seemed kind and fair. Not the kind of person who would bounce me out on my butt without giving me a fair chance. Hello. Nice to meet you. I'm Takashi. I know, I've been told. Taki, before we begin, I want to understand that I am deeply grateful to you for bringing Asahi back home to us. For whatever else she has been through, she has always been a kind and brave person, and one of our most devout soldiers in this war. And to lose her in addition to everyone else we've lost. There was something Liliana wasn't saying, that much I could tell. Even more, I could tell by the way Asahi's expression fell that there was more that I wasn't being told. Before I could say anything, Liliana continued. All that being said, these are troubled times for us all, you see, and blind trust, especially of strangers, is something we cannot afford. And so I would like to learn more about you, including where you came from, and how you came to be in our lands, a person whose garb is completely unlike anything previously seen in any of the villages we know of. Well, I'll tell you what I can, though I'm not sure you'll believe what I have to say. All I ask is that you tell the truth, nothing more. If you don't mind, I would like to get started with... What? Liliana stumbled forward, having tripped on something. What? Acting on pure instinct, I moved to catch her, but in the midst of her whirling her limbs about in an effort to regain her balance. Why? Why does this thing happen? She crashed into me chest first, with my face being caught between a set of ample breasts for what seemed like the 100th time since my arrival. Damn straight it has. I was suddenly too stunned to do anything except allow myself to crash down on my back, with Liliana landing sprawled out on top of me. I mean, I ain't complaining, but... Liliana, are you alright? Although I couldn't see what was happening, I could definitely hear Zahn and a few others moving about. A moment or so later, Liliana pulled herself off of me and assisted back onto her feet. As I was laying there, wondering why no one was bothering to help me up, Asi and Don unknowingly answered my question by coming to my aid. Oh, I'm sorry, Takishi. I tend to be quite a bit clumsy when I'm anxious. No, it was an accident. I understand. Ow. Oh, you poor thing. You've really had it rough lately, haven't you? Wait, what? Liliana was just standing there, and as soon as she fucking takes a step, she falls? Alright. Don't worry. I'll have you feeling all better. The naughty tone in Don's voice was all the warning I had before I heard her pop and open. Oh, no. I should do the sound effects for those. Looking about, I saw the bunny girl grabbing my hands and planting them squarely upon her breast. Wait, no, don't you don't. That was all I had the chance to get out before Dawn grabbed me by the back of my head and pulled my lips onto her own. And once again, my head felt fluffy as cotton candy, as delirious warmth flowed through me, being pumped in through my hands. But even as I was losing myself in the experience, Dawn was yanked off of me. Thanks. Well, I mean, I was enjoying it, but... And as I staggered backwards, I realized that Zahn had been the one who had done the yanking. With all due respect, Dawn, we have much work to get to. We don't have time for you to indulge yourself. Or an untested stranger to our village, for that matter. Untested? Come on. He's right, Dawn. You'll be able to tend to him later. For now, we need to take care of more immediate business. My apologies, Takashi. However... No, I understand. I just want to get this over with, please. As do I. Dawn, could you take us someplace where I can properly question Takashi? Sure. Even as she finished buttoning her top, Dawn guided us back to the dining area. There I sat down on one of the sides of the table, with Liliana sitting the opposite. Dawn stood nearby, and from a greater distance, Asi, Zahn, and the guards looked on. Takashi, I'm going to ask you a series of questions to which I expect you to answer either yes or no. Do you understand? It was like a scene out of a dozen movies, a lie detector test. As I understood it, Dawn was the lie detector. Alright. First, I'm going to ask you 2 simple questions. The first I want you to answer truthfully. The second I want you to lie. Are you a male? Yes. The instant I said this, Dawn's rabbit ears went straight up, almost as rigid as flagpoles. Taking note of this, Liliana nodded before looking at me again. Are you wearing clothes? And remember, you ought to lie. No. This time, Dawn's bunny ears fell to the side of her head. As Liliana took note of this, she nodded in satisfaction. Very well then, let's proceed. The frickin' human lie detector, man. And with that, Liliana began what I suppose was intended to be a gentle interrogation, but ultimately proved to be only tedious, but grueling as well. She asked me a whole bunch of questions, and to my relief, they were all aimed at making sure that I wasn't an underworlder, that I had nothing to do with the underworlders, and that I wasn't going to try to betray the Kahe village to the underworlders, or anything of that matter. Finally, after what seemed like literally forever, Liliana nodded and rose up from her seat. Thank you for your time and trouble, Takashi. It seems your concerns are baseless, Zan. Just because he isn't with the underworlders doesn't mean he isn't a threat. Why didn't you ask him where he's from, as I requested? Because our guest's origins are not as important at the moment. What is important is his intentions, and according to Dawn, he bears us no malice. So I see no reason why we should bear him any. That's right. So unless you're implying that my ears aren't working for some reason. Zan didn't say anything, but the face he made it clear that he wasn't pleased about any of this, leaving me with the bad feeling that I had best toe the line, at least where he was concerned. If you wish for him to be allowed to stay, then I won't argue any more about it. Still, I recommend that we should keep an eye on him. Noted. However, as you yourself have already pointed out on many occasions, we have more important things to worry about than a lone traveler whose only crime is to wind up caught in the crossfire of this horrid war. Alright? And as for you, Takashi, I bid you welcome to Kahe village, and apologize for the lack of hospitality you've been shown so far. Oh, I understand. I saw what the underworlders can do, so... My voice trailing off, I shrugged helplessly, unable to find the words to fit the horrors I had already seen. But somehow words weren't necessary, as Liliana's own expression saddened. I see. Takashi, I don't know what brought you to our lands, and in all honesty, I don't have the time to wonder about such matters. All I could say is that I regret that you arrived in our darkest times. Giving Liliana a look of sympathy, I sighed before raising my feet. Look, I know about what's happening, and I want to help you, if you let me. I appreciate that, but I do have to be honest with you. This war is going very badly for us, and it's only a matter of time before it arrives at our gates, so... There was an ugly, painful silence in the wake of Liliana's words falling her, and I just dreaded to think of the kind of burden she was forced to bear up under. But even as I wondered what was going through her mind, she managed a tiny smile. Still, we could use all the help we can get. Asahi? Yes? You seem to trust Takashi a great deal, and given that he brought you back to us, I think it's only fit that you take care of him during his stay in Kahe village. So please, show him around our village, and show him where the armory is. At the very least, he should be able to manage a simple sword and shield. At this, Asahi managed the broadest smile I had seen from her thus far, and as we exchanged glances, it only grew broader. As for me, well, I wasn't all that confident as to how well I'd be able to use a sword or shield. I'd used them in games in the past, but that amounted to pressing a few buttons, not actually swinging or blocking with a shield. But at the same time, while I wasn't exactly eager to get into a fight with the underworld forces, I liked the idea of facing them completely unarmed even less. What? Wait, did I read that right? Okay, he likes the idea of fighting them unarmed. Alright.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
As Dawn again came up behind us, I found one of her arms draped around my shoulder, with a quick look revealing that the bunny girl's other arm was about Aussie's shoulder.
The underworlders might have us down, but we aren't out. And we won't be out until every last one of us is turned to the darkness. And even if that happens, well, I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of wallowing around, acting all boo-hoo weepy, And I hope none of you are planning to do that either.
Fuck that! We'll fight to the death.